Sound check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Sound check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Good morning and welcome to the winter quarter commencement ceremonies of Baylor University School of Law. We are so pleased that you're with us today as we send these graduates forward into the profession and into a life of service. To begin our ceremonies this morning, I call upon Joanna Davis Hughes, a member of the class, for the invocation. Joanna.
Will you join me in prayer? Dear Lord, we thank you for this day of celebration. We recognize we could have not gotten here today without you. Thank you for providing us with family, friends, and support along the way. Thank you for those that are here to celebrate with us today and those watching online, many of whom so badly wanted to be here today. Thank you for these people who we could not have endured the stress and pressures of law school without. We pray we never forget the lessons we have learned over the last 3 years, the professors who molded us to be the best future lawyers we could be, the staff who served as confidants and therapists at times, and our classmates who became like family, especially during the 2 quarters of PC. As today signifies the end of one chapter and the beginning of the next, we pray that you continue to walk alongside of us on this journey. We pray that we use the skills and gifts that we have been given to us to serve others and to serve you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Joanna. Please be seated, class. And good morning, family and friends. Welcome again to the winter quarter commencement ceremonies of Baylor Law School. We're so pleased that you're with us today. This is a day of celebration and memory. Our graduates have been through a lot during their 3 years passing through school, through the law school. They essentially have been bookended by a pandemic. And as I look out this morning, and thank you for wearing masks, all those who choose to do so, I look at our graduates and they have been masked up during almost their entire journey through Baylor Law School. They have been diligent. They have recognized that sometimes life throws us some curveballs, and when that occurs, we handle it. We handle it through grit and resilience. And class, I want to congratulate each one of you for what you have done over these past couple years as you have worked with the faculty and the staff to put the pandemic, in a sense, in its place. The pandemic can never in one iota diminish our respect for you, our love for you, and the hopes that we have for you. The pandemic is not up to our love and concern. As we go forward, I see, class, your family and your friends. And you have been through a lot, to be sure. But I want to begin the ceremony today by reminding you that you didn't get here on your own. Each of us, of course, relies upon our loved ones, our family, and our friends as we pass through the years. Your parents, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, spouses, children, they have all been there for you as you have progressed from literally that first day of school in kindergarten or even earlier in daycare through this point of accomplishment which you have all reached. Given that, let's appropriately stand, turn around, and give your thanks and applause to your family and your friends and all who have supported you through this journey. Family and friends, thank you. We recognize that having your son or your daughter pass through the law school involves, in a sense, a lot of angst, not just for your son or daughter, but for you. We talk to our students, of course, regularly and find that they have been on telephone, email, texting, and so forth with the family and friends to receive some encouragement, to receive that little nudge sometimes that is necessary. So thank you for being here this morning. You are deeply appreciated. The law school has a strong service theme that runs through our entire program. At orientation, I tell our students that at the time that they graduate and then are licensed to practice law, that they will have, if not unique, a highly distinctive set of aptitudes, of skills, of insights that they can use for a purpose, and the purpose is to serve others. We are here in this life. We are here, and we have been given this gift of life by God for two purposes. There is the vertical purpose, and that is to glorify God, and the horizontal purpose, and that is to serve God's kingdom. And indeed, class, as you go forward, we're going to be again reminding you today that you are here for service. Joanna, thank you in your prayer, very appropriate that you have noted that indeed you are now well equipped to go forward. The legal profession is the steward of the rule of law and the steward of our justice system. Oftentimes, we overlook the symbiosis that exists between the legal profession and our military. I have, for many, many years, wanted to always remind folks at commencement that as we send these graduates out into the profession, we're sending them into a profession that relies upon the military, upon our armed forces. That may not occur to you immediately. However, think of this. None of us would enjoy the security in our lives and in our professions were it not for the umbrella of security that we are given by the U.S. Armed Forces, not just in this nation, but of course around the globe. And with that, as we do at every commencement ceremony, I want everyone in the audience, students, family, friends, if you have served in the military, active, reserve, or if you're retired, please stand now to receive our appreciation. We live in a society of false heroes. Every day we are bombarded with the detritus of information about our false heroes, and oftentimes we are drawn into the magnetism, a shallow magnetism of adoring and celebrating false heroes. You who have served in the military, who just stood, you're the real heroes. You rock. You have made it happen for our nation. I'm joined on the stage this morning by my colleagues and by Nancy Brickhouse. Dr. Brickhouse is the provost of the university. Dr. Brickhouse, as provost, well, I'm going to put it simply. She is in charge of all 12 schools of the university, including, of course, Baylor Law School. Or put even more bluntly, Dr. Brickhouse is my boss. We appreciate her being here this morning. Dr. Brickhouse has been at the university for a little over 3 years now. She, during those 3 years, has overseen the university attaining the R1 status that is given by the Carnegie Institute. That is a big deal, and you probably have, of course, noticed the news that came out just a few weeks ago explaining the journey of the university under Dr. Brickhouse's academic leadership to R1. She is an ardent cheerleader of the academic enterprise across the entire university. She is a cheerleader for the law school. Dr. Brickhouse leads the university in the strategic plan Illuminate. And Dr. Brickhouse, I want to this morning thank you for your support of the law school. And also I want to note, Dr. Brickhouse doesn't have to be here, but she is at our commencements. Because of the quarter system, we have 4 a year, and she always makes it when she can, and that is very frequently. Much appreciated, Dr. Brickhouse. Thank you. In the program, you have the biographical information on each of my other colleagues here. up on the stage. I will leave Professor Bates for just a bit later, but I want to now introduce each of my colleagues very briefly. I want to tell you something kind of intangible about each one. First of all, Professor Bridget Fusilier. Professor Fusilier, speaking of the Armed Forces, is the Executive Director of our Veterans Clinic. Baylor Law School has several clinics. Over the past about 13, 14, 15 years, our clinics have won 14 awards and recognitions from the Texas Access to Justice Commission, the State Bar of Texas, and the American Bar Association. The Veterans Clinic is the most prominent of our clinic activities. Professor Fusilier teaches property. She sees the students first off as they begin their journey through Baylor Law School. And another thing that immediately comes to mind, because it's such a vivid experience for our students in our law school community and the Waco and McLennan County community, is Adoption Day. I can't explain it, you just have to see it. For many years now, Professor Fusilier has engaged the work, the time and efforts of our students to put on a remarkable day in which generally about 25 to 35 adoptions occur. She has a heart for service. Thank you, Professor Fusilier. Professor Luke Meyer will be assisting, as will Professor Fusilier, in the hooding of the graduates. Professor Meyer is a very accomplished teacher, very accomplished scholar. He is someone who, like Professor Fusilier, encounters the students in their first year, gets them on the right track. And Professor Meyer, as with Professor Fusilier, has been recognized in the past with the Outstanding Faculty Award. We have several of our faculty members, I think about a dozen or 14 of them, who have received that recognition from the university. And we treasure that because that is an indicator that our faculty engaged in teaching and scholarship really get the job done in such a way that they stand out. Then I want to introduce next Associate Dean Pat Wilson. Professor Dean now Wilson has been our Associate Dean for the last 6 months, 6 or 7 months. She is a senior member of the faculty. Professor Leah Teague served as the Associate Dean. We served side by side for almost 30 years, but she decided to return back to full-time faculty service. And I think it's very telling that the entire faculty was unanimous in the accolades that they gave to Professor now Dean Wilson when she was appointed as Associate Dean of the law school. She encounters these students very directly in academic matters, personal matters, and the like. And she also is a person with a real heart of service. She and her husband, Mike, have fostered nearly 24 children over the years. She is well known as being, among many other activities that she is engaged in, as the creator of the People's Law School, which will unfold next Saturday. We'll have several hundred folks at the Law Center getting a sense of a number of different areas that are involved with our justice system, with the law, with the rule of law. Thank you, Dean Wilson. Thank you. And then Senior Assistant Dean Angela Cruz-Turner. She is new in her position, but she's not new to the law school. She's been very active in the admissions process many, many years ago. But then for the last decade, she has led our career development office before assuming her new role. And of course, as we know, that's critically important. Graduation is wonderful. Getting licensed is wonderful. Getting a position where you can serve is the very best thing, because that allows you, of course, to put your aptitudes, your skill, your learning to the test in service. And now I will call upon Becca Davis-Jonke for remarks on behalf of the graduating class. Becca.
Excuse me. Thank you, Dean Tobin. It's an honor to be here speaking today. And on behalf of the class, I want to start by thanking the faculty and staff that helped get us here today, and by thanking our family, friends, and other loved ones who are here today in person and online who couldn't be here but I know are watching. We would not have gotten here without your help over the last few years. To my fellow graduates, we did it. We are graduating from law school today after years of hard work and sacrifice. This week, as another ice storm approached Texas, I sat there watching the weather, wondering if my friends and family coming in from out of town would make it, if we would even have graduation, and I thought, isn't this symbolic of the last few years? Everyone, in one way or another, has experienced hardship from COVID. We've all had to adapt. We've had to learn to move forward in what feels like unlimited, unprecedented circumstances that keep coming our way. For those of us graduating today, we had to balance those unexpected challenges amidst the traditional law school obstacles just to get here to finish our degree. Sometimes I really wondered if we'd make it. But we did it, we're here, and I've learned just how important it is to celebrate the milestones along the way. What we just completed was hard. 3 years worth of curriculum, some of us finished that faster than 3 years. A rigorous program, in-person learning to the advent of the Zoom classroom, back to in-person, and for the last 3 weeks of our law school career, finishing online. Throughout our time in school, we made it through the notorious CivPro midterm. We were some of the last to have Professor Sayre for criminal law. And I think we probably all had a memo from Professor Corden that at least at one point fell below expectations. For most of us graduating today, we also just completed the practice court program, the particularly grueling 2-quarter program that all Baylor law students must go through. We have much to be proud of today. Amidst the hardship and the challenges, I saw plenty glimmers of hope worth noting. A week before I started the practice program, I had major knee surgery and was on crutches for 6 weeks at the beginning of practice court. I truly would not have made it without the help of my PC partner who drove me to class every day and carried my books. But my fellow classmates deserve recognition as well. Some of whom I hadn't gotten to know because we had been online for most of school, about a year and a half preceding practice court, and they daily offered to help in a multitude of ways, to carry my books, to offer to pick something up so that I wouldn't have to get up, among many other ways. When I progressed from 2 crutches to 1, they congratulated me. They were genuinely excited about my progress. And when I finally walked into the practice courtroom on my own 2 feet, those who were in the room already clapped for me. In the inherently competitive environment of the law school classroom, I witnessed firsthand the kindness and generosity of my fellow classmates. It wasn't just me, though. I know I heard it from other students, too. It was the collaboration between students working as opposing counsel. It was the excitement shared after a successful cold call or the many condolences offered after a not-so-successful one. When someone came to school wearing a suit, we knew it was likely that they had an advocacy exercise later that day. I would hear all the other students say things like, "Good luck," or "You'll be great," or "Hopefully your observer is nice." I am thankful for the camaraderie we built and for the support we shared amidst the stress and hard work. As we graduate and move on to wherever our careers and lives take us, as we continue to face the unprecedented challenges, I will remember the kindness and the generosity of my classmates, the importance of championing others' personal progress, and I will remember to celebrate the important and the mundane milestones along the way. Today, we celebrate a major milestone. Today, we graduate from law school. So congratulations, my fellow graduates. We did it.
Thank you, Becca. Well said. Becca, thank you for your acknowledging the faculty and staff. Baylor Law School Without going into detail, we have a lot to brag about. And it happens because we have a team of faculty and staff colleagues who make it go day by day for our program, and most importantly for our students. I have already introduced my colleagues who are here on the stage, but now I would like all of our faculty and staff colleagues at the law school to please rise to receive our appreciation. No more invested team in the welfare of law students than this team invested in the welfare of Baylor law students. Baylor Law School, as you know, there's a moniker or adage that goes around, it's where fun goes to die. And the faculty, of course, by putting some fire underneath of our students day by day, make that adage come true. But it's an adage that's so important for all of us to actually be proud of, because you will be going out and you will be facing those who are dealing with problems in their life that are the most important and pressing problem that they've ever faced. They may be facing the loss of their liberty, the loss of a business. They may be wanting to start up a business. They may be trying to make sure that at their passing that their estate goes smoothly and properly. They may have tax problems. I could go on and on and on, but that's what we serve as Baylor lawyers, and that rigor, that pressure, that angst that sometimes arises that Becca referred to, it's all necessary because that creates you as a Baylor lawyer. And of course, my colleagues know I never make note of that term Baylor lawyer without telling you that as you go forward, remember Baylor lawyer, if you're typing it or if you're writing it, capital B, obviously, because it's a proper noun, but also capital L, because it is not just a descriptor, it is a brand. And now we come to our speaker, my colleague, Professor Larry Bates. Professor Bates is just beloved by the students. He is a graduate of the University of Minnesota, Marquette, and Harvard Law School. He burned up the track academically all along the way. He, in the 90s, practiced with Coleman Carrington, Sloman Blumenthal in Dallas, but then we nabbed him for the faculty. He came on, and for the last 25 years now, he has been teaching the students in the first year in the contracts class, but also he teaches commercial law. He teaches secured transactions, negotiable instruments, some of the areas that the students don't find to be as interesting as other areas like torts, like people getting injured and hurt and how they obtain recompense. But it's still not only an integral part of lawyering for us to have those who engage in leading people through the difficulties of contracts and commercial law mazes. But I mention that principally to tell you that this guy is really a fantastic teacher, and he is very popular despite the material that he has to present to our students. And that is a tribute. That is a tribute, Larry. You make it happen. You don't let the material get in the way of excellence in teaching that attracts the students to you. Professor Bates has published widely. He has a couple books in commercial law. He has been exceptionally active in our moot court program, not just at the law school, but nationally. You may be aware, family and friends, because many of the graduates here have been on mock trial and moot court teams at the law school. We send out about 36 teams every year, and Professor Bates has been very central in our moot court advocacy program. So central that I can't let this pass. Just last weekend, he took a team to the Andrews Kurth Invitational Moot Court Competition, and he won with the team the national championship. Way to go, Larry. I was in my office Monday, Tuesday, and I had congratulated Larry and the team by email, but Larry suddenly appeared at my door, and of course I stood up and I gave him hearty congratulations in person for that national championship. And he was very gracious in accepting them. As always, he deferred the credit to the students. He said, my students, my team just really slammed it this past weekend at the competition. And we were talking about his success and the students' success. And we finally got to the point, he turned around to go back to his office, and I said, Larry, I need you for something else. Professor Consular, Jeremy Consular, our colleague, was scheduled to speak today, and he had just called me right before Professor Bates showed up at my door and told me, I have COVID. I have COVID. He tested positive. And so as Larry turned to walk away, I said, Larry, great job with the national championship. I have something else I need to touch base with you. And I asked Professor Bates if he would consider with such short notice being our speaker this morning, given the illness of Professor Consular. And it took him about a New York second to say, yes, of course I will. And so with that, I give you Professor Bates. I think I've covered about everything that is in the insert, the biographical information in the program, except maybe that last line. And if you have not read Professor Bates' bio, take a look at it right now. Well, I'll just go ahead and tell you. He asked, can I include this? And of course, the last line of the bio is, Professor Bates has the best hair in the law school. Professor Bates.
I do. Thank you, Dean Tobin. I'm not sure who you were describing. And thanks. It's really an honor to be here to talk to you this morning on this really important day. After I agreed to do this, then I had to come up with something to talk to you about. And so, of course, my first thought was the Uniform Commercial Code. I mean, why not? I've already explained to you how it was one of the most important accomplishments of the human race in the 20th century. Why not make that the appropriate talk today? And I thought, nah, that's probably not going to work. Then I thought, well, I could talk about the early days with John and Paul, or the crazy road trips with Robert and Jimmy with Zeppelin. And I thought that was so long ago, probably not do that either. It's the hair. So then I thought back to my graduation and what that was like. And the first thing that popped in my mind was that the year I graduated my law school, gave an honorary law degree to the actor who played Captain Kangaroo in the children's TV series. And so Captain Kangaroo and I share a law degree. And after I blocked that out of my mind, I thought, okay, back to graduation. And, you know, I couldn't remember anything anybody said to me that really mattered. And I thought, that's kind of sad. And so I thought, maybe what I should talk to you about is the things that, over the years, I wish they had told me at graduation, things that might have been helpful. And so, being a David Letterman fan, I came up with my top 10 things I wish they would have told me when I graduated. So, number 10, forks. Now, I know you're thinking silverware. Well, I had forks. We had silverware when I was growing up. No big deal. But then, one evening, I got invited out by a senior partner to have dinner with a very important client. And our offices were in the Crescent complex in Dallas, and there was a very exclusive restaurant as part of the Crescent Hotel, and so that's where we went to eat. And as I was being ushered into my seating, I looked down at the table in front of me, and there were more forks in the space that I was going to occupy than I had in my drawer at home. Not a big deal, except they were all different sizes, which told me they all had different purposes, and I had no idea. And so what was supposed to be kind of a celebratory evening for me became a stressful evening because I kept thinking, I'm gonna embarrass the senior client because I don't know what fork to use. And so there are things that you may not think are important in life, but someday you'll wish you knew a little bit more about silverware than you do. And that was my evening. All right, number 9, reliable dry cleaner. When I got to my firm, when I got to Dallas, I had one suit, and well, as you might guess, my suit wasn't going to be very appropriate for practice because it looked like I bought it at Woodstock. In fact, it actually had bell bottoms. And so I found a place in town that appeared to make good suits, and so I bought 4 suits, and I paid $500 for these suits. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot of money today, but back in 1987, the only thing I'd paid $500 or more for had 4 wheels or was part of my stereo system. And so this was a lot of money. But I got the suits, and after a while, I thought, I'm kind of stylish. And I know that's Bates and stylish are not 2 words you would use in the same sentence on a regular basis, but I kind of like these suits. Until one Monday morning, as I was getting dressed to go to the office, and I stuck my leg into the trouser pants, and the cuff came up to mid-calf. And I thought, that's odd. Last time I had these pants on, the cuff seemed to be at the top of the shoe, and so I thought, well, let's try the other leg, and I stuck that leg in, and sure enough, the cuff stopped at the calf. And I thought, at my age, I surely haven't undergone some kind of a growth spurt this weekend. Had I realized, I'd just invented capri pants. I could have made a fortune, but I wasn't thinking that way. And so I just picked this suit up from the dry cleaners over the weekend, and I had another one I picked up from the dry cleaner at the same time, and so I looked at that, and the same thing, so I stopped at the dry cleaner on the way down to the office that day, and I said, I don't know what you did, but, these don't appear to be the same suits that I brought in. And the manager looked at them, and he said, oh, we laundered them instead of dry cleaning them. I don't know if you've ever laundered wool and put it in a dryer, but it shrinks. And so the manager said, well, don't worry, we'll stretch it back to its original size. I said, what? What do you mean? It's not taffy. How do you stretch wool? Well, needless to say, that did not have a good ending. So find a reliable dry cleaner because you need them. Number 8, answering machines. Now, we have cell phones today, and you have the voicemails and that kind of stuff. Back when I was in practice, we didn't have that. And so the only way somebody could invade your home when you weren't there was through an answering machine. And I had resisted getting an answering machine. I didn't think the telephone was that great of an invention. And so I really didn't think I needed an answering machine. But after a couple of years of shame and ridicule at my firm, I bought an answering machine. And the day it arrived, I installed it, hooked it up, and went out and ran a couple of errands and came back, and the light was blinking. My first message. We all remember our first voicemail, right? And so I pushed the button, and it's one of the senior partners at my firm who says, Larry, I'm at the office. Please call me. It's 8 o'clock at night, and I know this is not going to have a happy ending because she's at the office. So I call her. She's now a federal judge, as a matter of fact. So I call her, and she explains to me we have an emergency, crisis. She needs me to come down to the office, and so I went down to the office. The next evening when I got home at 6 p.m. finally, I unplugged the answering machine and threw it in the garage. Now, I don't know what you do because, you got that cell phone with you all the time, and so they're always going to be able to find you, but at least I got rid of the answering machine. Number 7, timesheets. Timesheets. They're very important. They're certainly very important to the partners in your firm because it's the basis for how they get paid. And I guess I kind of knew that. I wasn't new to keeping time. The grocery store I worked at, we had time cards. You punch in, punch out. But of course, nobody, cared what I was doing at 8:45 or 9:25. So this was a little bit different. And I actually was familiar with timesheets because the judge I clerked for, made us keep timesheets, which I always thought was stupid because, he knew what we were working on because he assigned it to us. And it wasn't like we were billing the government, so I didn't really see the purpose of the timesheets. And so the way it worked was, but every 5 or 6 weeks, he would call me in the chambers and say, where are your timesheets? And I'd say, oh, Judge, I'm so sorry. I filled them out at home, and I forget to bring them in. And of course, that night I would go home and make up 5 or 6 weeks of timesheets. So when I get to the firm, I kind of get this idea, but this is kind of not my thing. But I realize that it's important. So I do keep track of all of my time, but I keep track of it on Post-it notes and scraps of paper. And unfortunately, you can't send those down to the accounting office for client billing, and so you had to transfer that stuff to these forms. And it just seemed like a pain. You had a client number, and then everything had a code, telephone call 093, and it was just miserable filling these things out. And so, I did it every 3 or 4 days at first, and then every week, and well, one day I get a message from one of the senior partners of the firm. He's on the management committee. He's a really good lawyer, good teacher, and very selective about the associates in the firm he worked with. So I thought, oh, he wants me to see him. Must mean I'm doing well, because otherwise he wouldn't ask me to come help him. And so I get down to his office, and we go in, and he says, close the door. And I think, oh, this is really important, because we got to talk about it behind closed doors. And I've got my notepad, I'm ready to take notes. And he says, Larry, do you have some kind of a moral or ethical problem with turning in your timesheets on a daily basis? All that air in my head, that balloon, I could feel it going out, because, he wasn't going to work with me. He was going to chastise me for not filling out my timesheets. And so I wish somebody had told me when I graduated that do the timesheets every day, because they're important to people. That's how you get paid. 6, don't rely on your client to do the job for you. You'll establish relationships, long-standing relationships with clients. You get to know these clients, and you want to rely on them. You kind of have a rapport with them, but you got to be careful. I had a client who I'd done a couple hundred things with, and he called me one day and said, this particular debtor had filed bankruptcy again, and we'd had this sort of struggle with this debtor for a number of years. He filed bankruptcy again. My client had gotten a notice and filed a motion to lift stay, which is filed a motion that lets me get our equipment back. And so I filed the motion. Normally, in that situation, I would have him send me all the documentation, make sure that everything was in order, but I didn't this time. I went ahead and filed the motion to lift stay, and a couple weeks later, I got an answer from the other side in the form of a motion for sanctions. Because as it turned out, the debtor had actually paid my client off. And so we did not have a claim against the debtor. And so a couple of weeks later, I was down in San Antonio defending myself against a motion for sanctions for filing a claim that we didn't have. And it worked out ultimately, but it was very embarrassing to be there before this bankruptcy judge, this federal judge, explaining why I didn't know the debtor had paid the debt off to my client when I filed the motion to lift stay. And so from that point on, I never trusted the client. You want me to do this? Give me the documentation. Make sure that it's my reputation that's on the line here, and so I'm going to make sure I have all the information, the documentation that I need if I'm going to do something for you. 5. The fear of failing never goes away. I wish somebody had told me that, because it doesn't. Now, that sounds like a bad thing, but it's not really. One of my favorite stories about Article 9, I got to get that in, right, is told by a law professor at Yale, a guy named Guido Calabrese, who actually is one of the founders of the doctrine of contorts. Went on to be dean of the Yale Law School, and he's now a United States Court of Appeals judge for the Second Circuit. Well, when he first started teaching law school at Yale, he had a 1 o'clock contract class. And he was so nervous before his class that he could not eat lunch. And he thought, eventually I'm going to get over this. And when he started his second year, he was still so nervous before class that he couldn't eat lunch. And so a colleague of his, a guy named Grant Gilmore, who wrote Article 9, that's the Article 9 connection, who'd been teaching for 40 years at that time, happened to walk by his office one day, and he said, "Grant, will you come in here a minute?" And Gilmore came in, and Calabrese explained, I'm so uptight about this teaching, I can't eat lunch before my class. And he said, "When does it stop? When does it go away?" And Gilmore says, "When it does, stop teaching." And that's because it's that fear of failure, that anxiety that we all have, those butterflies that we get in the stomach when we approach something. That's what motivates us. That's what drives us. And when that's gone, maybe everything else is gone too. And so the key with the fear of failure is harness it. You harness it and you direct it in a positive way. And that's what makes you go the extra mile, read the extra Ks, do the extra research. You channel that because it ain't ever going to go away. And if it does, you better start thinking about maybe it's time to move on yourself. And I'll tell you what, everybody in the courtroom with you has that same fear, because it doesn't go away. Number 4, respect. It is so important to your success as a lawyer that the legal community respects you. Don't ever lose sight of how important that is. The judges, the people on the jurors, your colleagues in the bar, you need things from them. Practicing law is not a solo endeavor, even if you are a solo practitioner. You're dependent upon other people. And your life is a lot easier if those people that you're dependent on, that you need to be part of your profession, respect you. And it's sometimes easy to forget about that, especially when you're dealing with people that you don't think are as important in life as you. I was just always amazed at how poorly so many lawyers treated the clerks down at the filing office, the judges' clerks, the judges' docket clerks. They weren't lawyers, and so it was like, I'm a lawyer, you're just a person who, has a job. I don't have to show you any kind of respect. Well, sometimes the people that you don't think are important are the most important people in your life. The people at the clerk's office, boy, at some point in your career, you're going to need a favor. And if you've treated them like they're your servants, you ain't going to get that favor. I had a case in Fort Worth when I first started practicing, and I was based in Dallas, and so I didn't spend much time. I hadn't spent much time in Fort Worth, but I was there for about 9 months on a regular basis. And so one of the things I did is I introduced myself to the bankruptcy clerk's office, the administrators, got to know them. Every time I was down at the courthouse, I wanted to see them, got to know about their families. And then one day, I had a report that had to be filed in the case, and so it had to be signed by the client. And so I had my runner bring it over to the client, who signed it, I thought, and then he took it over to the courthouse in Fort Worth to file. Well, when the runner brings back the file stamped copy, I realized that the client has made some changes to the document that I prepared. And initially, thoughts of how I did not look good in orange ran through my mind, especially those orange jumpsuits that people in jail and prisons wore. And so I had a problem because what the client had changed was not good. And so, but this thing's on file, so what am I going to do? It's a public record now, it's out there. So I called the chief of the filing office in Fort Worth, who I'd gotten to know, and I said, hey, got a problem here. If I sent over another document, would you unfile for me what we filed and substitute this? And she said, sure, I'll do that for you. If I had treated her like I saw other lawyers treat those people, that wasn't going to happen. And I would, if I were here now, I'd be in orange probably. 3, Exercise good judgment. Very important because especially the people in your firm, it's sometimes easy to, you're going to exercise good judgment when you're practicing law and doing the legal work, but there's other parts of life that also are insights into your judgment. One of the things that always surprises me sometimes when I'm traveling with people is how they will react to being on an expense account. And I had lawyers in my firm the same way. Well, I'm not paying for this, so I'm going to get the steak and lobster. I'm going to order the most expensive thing on the menu. And, fortunately, that hasn't happened in a long time for me. But when it happens, that person drops a little bit in stature for me because, the person would say, well, it's not my money. And I think, well, it's somebody's money. It's somebody's money. And so things like that, how you react, how you exercise your control over things that may not seem so important, they speak volumes about you. They speak volumes about you. If I'm a partner at a law firm and I'm thinking about you becoming a partner, I'm liable for everything you do. And if I don't think you have good judgment, you ain't going to be a partner in my firm. If you don't care about my money any more than you care about your own, that's not somebody I want to share liability with. So exercise good judgment, always. Number 2, never stop being you. In practice, boy, there's lots of things, lots of pressure, lots of things that arise that, can cause you to become somebody you're not. Money is a very, very, very enticing thing. And unfortunately, I watched a few people during my time in practice become completely different persons than they started to because of the pressure of practice, because of the money, the rewards that were there. They kind of lost who they were. And I always felt really sorry for them. And because, I spent a whole lot of time being me. I'm not saying me is anything special, but I've spent a whole lot of time being me, and I don't want to be somebody else. I don't want to change because of my profession, because of what I'm doing. I want to keep being me. And so, because if you're not you, then how do you look at yourself in the mirror every day? So resist the forces out there that are going to be working on you to try and turn you into something that you're really not, that you didn't start out as. So never stop being you. And then the number one thing I wish they would have said to us at graduation was thank you. Thank you. I think those of us who stay behind at law school kind of forget sometimes that the law school are the students, are the graduates. It's not us. It's not the faculty. You are Baylor Law School. It's not us. I remember, the one thing I do remember about my graduation was all the talk about the faculty and how important they were and how great the law school was. And I kind of remember thinking, well, what about me? What about you? You've been with us for 3 years. You've believed in us, even when maybe you didn't want to believe us. Practice court. So, we owe you a lot, because without you, we don't exist. I have nowhere to go. And so I thought the most important thing they could have told me at graduation was thank you for letting me be part of your life for the last 3 years, a very important 3 years in your life. Hopefully you've learned a few things from us. I guess for me, I know I've learned a lot from you. I'm a better teacher. I always learn how to be a better teacher with each class. Hopefully I'm becoming a better person. I know that I've learned a lot about popular culture from you. I'll never look at peaches the same way again. But yeah, I just want to say, just for me anyway, thank you for letting me be part of these 3 years, and I will not forget the time you spent at the law school during the COVID period of all periods, I guess. So thanks.
That was excellent.
It was
Thank you, Professor Bates. He does have the best hair in the law school, but much more than that. I was listening to Professor Bates' top 10 and putting aside a couple of them, like find a dry cleaner, still important. I was enumerating in my mind what he spoke about. He hit upon character, integrity, reputation, judgment, and gratefulness. And if you have and preserve and develop each of those traits, you'll be a very successful Baylor lawyer. More important, though, you'll be what you already are, I believe, and that is a very successful person. Thank you, Larry. Provost Brickhouse, I invite you now for remarks to the class.
Congratulations. I just want to say thank you, first of all, to the administration of the law school for carrying the mission of Baylor Law for so many years and providing these opportunities for students. And to the faculty, you know, if you were to ask me what was really distinctive about Baylor Law, I would say, you ready for it? You will be educated to practice law. You will be ready to practice law when you leave. It's a rigorous education. It's a competitive education. It's competitive to get in, and it's competitive after you get here. But there's also an ethos that underlies the law school that resonates so well with the mission of the university as a whole, that I think sets us apart, that makes me confident that our graduates are leaving not only technically skilled and not only smart, but ethically grounded in many of the commitments of our faith. And so as you proceed, you will have a big impact on society. And when things get tough, I hope that some of those values that are part of our faith tradition will guide you in your judgments, in your interactions with other people, remembering that God created us all and in His image, and there is inherent value and worth to every human being. So congratulations, and stay in touch. Dean Tobin wants to hear from you. Your faculty want to hear from you. We want to know what you're up to so we can celebrate your successes with you. Congratulations.
Spot on, Dr. Brickhouse. The time has now arrived for the conferral of the degrees. Will the degree candidates please stand? Provost Brickhouse, Dr. Brickhouse, each of the degree candidates standing before you have completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as approved by the faculty of the Baylor School of Law and the Baylor University Board of Regents. Accordingly, it's my pleasure to present the class to you for the conferral of the degree of Juris Doctor.
Each of you have completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as set forth by the Baylor University School of Law. Upon the certification of Dean Brad Tobin and the Faculty of Law, and on behalf of the Baylor University Board of Regents, it is my pleasure to confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Brickhouse, and congratulations, class. But there's more. Now we will move forward to the award of the diplomas and the hooding of each of our graduates. Family and friends, it's important that you realize that we have a decades-long tradition at Baylor Law School. As the name of your graduate is called, we expect you, we are fully anticipating that you will participate in the tradition. We don't want you to be deterred or to be reticent because of the beauty of the sanctuary in which we sit. The tradition is this: when the name of your graduate is called, you will make as much noise as you possibly can. And know this: we measure the depth of the love you have for your graduate by the decibels that you can produce. Let us go forward.
Abby Lane Atkins. The next graduate will receive a special distinction in intellectual property. Garrett Davis Albrocht. Emma Grace Anderson, magna cum laude. We have a few graduates not able to join us today, but we want to celebrate their accomplishments as well. The first is Christine Padrique Brown, who is a Public Interest Fellow. Levi Thomas Crozier. Forrest Justin Collada.
Madeline Alyssa Dalton. Jack Todd Feiner. Madeline Garcia. Joanna Davis Hughes. cum laude. Gavin Eli Jaco, magna cum laude. Our next graduate is the highest ranking student of the graduating class, graduating summa cum laude, Rebecca Davis Yankee.
Kate Pauline Jones. Morgan Elise Jones. Kaylin Laurel Kirkpatrick. Luke Belton Maddox. Luke Peter Marvin.
Our next graduate is a public interest fellow, Julie Andrea Madsen. Our next three students are not in attendance, but again, we want to recognize them. Kelly Marie O'Connor, Melissa Salmano Ruiz, and Brittany L. Rummel. Catherine Pellerin Stevens, magna cum laude. Darby Tyndall Strickland. Ryan Joseph Tutera. Bailey Elizabeth Van Atta. Lauren Ashley Walker, cum laude. Jackson Horace Wells.
Let's all rise and congratulate this class. Y'all did really well, family and friends, with the decibels. You must love this group. Indeed you do. Wonderful day of celebration, memory, and the expression of our love for one another. Class, we're now sending you forward into the profession of service. You will be Baylor lawyers, and as Dr. Brickhouse noted, please remember us. Remember us because we're as proud as we can be of you, but we're going to be even more proud as we watch your accomplishments, professional and personal, as you go down through the years. Remember, before you can be a great professional, you got to be a great and quality person of faith, and we hope that you will remember the points that Professor Bates made again. I'm going to repeat them because they're worthwhile storing. Character, integrity, judgment, reputation, and gratefulness. Okay, well done. Well done, Professor Bates. Dr. Brickhouse, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your faithfulness to the law school and for your cheerleading. We are now going to, in a moment, adjourn. I want to thank our registrar, Jerry Cunningham, and Meredith Meyer, and Kendall Smith this morning because they have attended to all the minor details that come together to create a memorable ceremony. Thank you to Dean Wilson and to Dean Cruz-Turner. They are also very intricately involved in the preparation for this day, and we appreciate the efforts of all. I appreciate also the lovely music that has been provided to us by Mr. Day on the cello. And with that, I will leave you with this reminder. It comes from John Wesley, the, of course, very high-profile 18th century Anglican cleric. He admonished all of us to do all the good that you can by all the means that you can, by all the ways that you can, at all the times that you can, in all the places you can, for all the people you can, as long as you can. That's a pretty good formula for life. And with that, we are adjourned. Family and friends, we will be recessing from the sanctuary, but please remain seated. We will be re-entering from the narthex in just a moment. The class and my colleagues will assemble here on the stairway for photography. If we could make a little bit of a room for our professional photographer as we do that. So please bear with us as we recess, and we'll be coming back in just a moment for the photography. We are indeed adjourned.